Chapter 23. Casablanca. Less than 30 minutes later, 15,000-pound daisy cutters dropped by B-52s began to pepper the ground beneath which the cavern lay, throwing flames hundreds of yards into the air. In the village, a quarter-mile away, concussion waves toppled buildings and knocked men carting goods on donkeys off their mounts. X was in his room, kneeling in prayer, when Hamid burst in.
"Why are you still here?"
the young aide asked, bewildered.
"Do you not hear the bombs?"
"I called my family to make sure they are safe," he said, rising from the prayer mat. The chief honored his word, as I knew he would. I am thanking Allah for watching over them.
"We must go. The Americans are coming. Our spies at Fort Freedom say the helicopters will reach here within minutes, and raiding parties will come pouring in every entrance. We are all to evacuate."
"Through the mosque?"
"No. We have secret escape tunnels leading to the valley, built for just an emergency like this."
X started out with Hamid, then stopped in his tracks. "What about the prisoner, the Jewish spy?"
"In 20 minutes, nerve gas will finish this place,"
the overweight terrorist replied, with a grin that revealed a lifetime without dental work.
"It is a little surprise the chief cooked up for the Americans. That will take care of the conniving bastard."
X shook his head. "I want to take care of him myself. It was I who brought him into this haven. It is I who must finish him." This appeared to make perfect sense to Hamid.
"Hurry. Meet us at the rear of the hydroelectric generator room."
The fat man embraced him.
"May Allah protect you."
Gosh, thought X, they're a touchy-feely bunch. The chief's escape plan was far from foolproof. While the majority of his men were able to make their way out through a plethora of hidden exits dug into the mountainside, Hamid and Farik were not so lucky. Marines, with the help of infrared probes, had located one of the tunnels and were working their way through it, armed with Armalite M16 assault rifles plus SIG 9mm pistols as backup. Farik, leading a dozen fighters, toppled as his head exploded. He was wearing body armor, but the Americans, anticipating just such a precaution, took down their foes with headshots. The Marines, firing special ceramic ammunition that shattered on impact to avoid ricochet injuries, poured round after round into the dark. Barely audible beneath the deafening gunfire were the shouts of confusion and fear from the fleeing terrorists as the Americans calmly cut them down. When the Marines, emboldened, pressed on into the tunnel, the warriors of Allah fared better in the fierce hand-to-hand battle that ensued. The jihadists slashed throats with kukris, the traditional curved Gurkha knives, while the Americans struck back with commando knives, nicknamed K-bars. Against all odds, Hamid fought his way past the Marines and out into the open. Unfortunately for the chief's loyal aide, he ran into the path of a 7.62mm round that literally cut him in half.
"Allah, receive your serve!"
the fat man screamed, firing his AK-47 at the U.S. soldiers as he bit the dust. As X expected, no one was guarding Harry's cell. The two fighters previously posted there had already made their way to the tunnels. "I didn't think you would," Harry began. "Come back for you?" "I'm hurt," said X as he knelt and began untying the spy. "What sort of fellow do you think I am? We con artists have a motto, never leave a comrade behind." "I thought that was the Marines." "Right. Ours is, there's no honor among thieves. Should I go?" "That's okay. Carry on." The knots were trickier than X had hoped. Precious moments flew by as he fumbled with the ropes. "Whoever did these must have been an Eagle Scout," he said. "Not likely." After finally undoing the last and most vexing knot, he helped Harry to his feet. A massive explosion shook the ceiling above their heads, almost throwing them down. "What the hell was that?" X exclaimed. "A daisy cutter," Harry said. "Over 12,000 pounds. Our boys are already bombing the place. Well, perhaps we'd better leave too then." "For once we agree." He helped Harry into the hall, and they made their way slowly through the passageways. The lights were flickering, At least one of the generators was kaput, and the identity thief had no doubt the other two would go within a few minutes. When they reached the tunnel leading to the generator room, and presumably the secret exit, they were greeted by the rat-a-tat of automatic gunfire. "Well, that's out," X said. "We'll have to go out the way we came in, the mosque." "We don't have much time. 5 minutes tops," Harry said. "The guard told me about the nerve gas. One said, 'I hope you Jews can hold your breath,' the cocksucker." "A bad apple, for sure." They moved swiftly through the passage toward the mosque, hoping their sense of direction hadn't failed them. It was a good thing X had spent so many hours eluding his brother-in-law. He was well enough acquainted with the labyrinth to know a shortcut to the mosque entrance. "This way." As they turned the corner, they were greeted by the unwelcome sight of Dr. Zawari pointing a handgun at them. It was a gold-plated vintage Luger, X was surprised to see, presumably a souvenir from some anti-Semitic fan of the Warriors of Allah. It made him look remarkably like a Nazi officer in a black-and-white World War II movie he'd watched on TV, on the couch next to Mother late one Saturday night. Casablanca, perhaps. "I thought the Jew would be useful to us," X informed him. "A hostage we can trade." "I do not think so," the urologist turned terrorist said. "Hands up." X raised his hands, as did Harry. "I solved the puzzle too late," Dr. Zawari said with a less than entirely chummy smile. "The email warning us about the hacking. It was you, wasn't it?" "Don't be absurd, Doctor," X said. "We've got to get out of this place. The Americans are bombing. And the gas." "The new account. In Zimbabwe it is a fiction, is it not? The chief's code useless. Where did that money really go? Into the U.S. Treasury? Or some anti-terrorist slush fund like the one that your President Reagan used to pay the Contras?" The number 2 man of the Warriors of Allah took a step toward them and pointed the gun directly between X's eyes. X thought, "I really wish people would stop sticking guns in my face." "Now you will die," Dr. Zawari snarled. "Wait," said X. "Listen, it is true. I am not really Ali Nazir. If you give me but a moment, I can explain who I really am." The physician hesitated. "I am all ears." "The chief is a traitor, in league with the Americans. He has been on the CIA payroll for decades. My true name is Wahid al-Kahar. I have been sent by a secret committee of imams in Saudi Arabia to bring him down. The Americans believe that I am a look-alike they coerced into working for them. But the truth is, I infiltrated them deliberately." Harry stared at him, stunned. "What?" he exclaimed. X smirked and tapped his head. "It is called planning, my Jewish friend. This man here is indeed a Mossad agent, and when we get to safety, I will tell you what is in store for him. It will not be pleasant." His accent had shifted now. It was not the cultured lilt of a man raised in luxury in Kuwait and trained in gentlemanly speech by tutors, but unmistakably and beyond the shadow of any doubt, that of a Bedouin. "You have been selected to replace the chief," the man revealed to Dr. Zawari. A smile played upon the lips of the physician as the truth seeped in. "Me? You filthy son of a bitch," Harry said. "I actually thought for a moment you had an ounce of compassion in you." "You thought what I wanted you to think," X said, coldly lowering his hands. His entire manner had changed, the sly, sardonic man gone, and a hardened leader stood in his place. Harry watched in disbelief as even the impersonator's eyes transformed. A new kind of evil glowed in them now, no longer the casual moral idiocy of a sociopath, but something far more frightening. Dr. Zawari stared at his compatriot, still wavering. "Yes," he murmured, "they see what they want to see." "You will be given authority over all operations in Afghanistan and Pakistan," the man who had identified himself as Wahid al-Khair informed the second-in-command authoritatively. "You will report directly to a man—" "Shut up," "Shut up," Dr. Zawari blurted, abruptly sticking a finger in one ear. "Your days of telling lies and lies within lies are over. It is time to die, both you and your Zionist master." He shot Harry, who dropped like a stone. Then he pointed the gun at X's chest. "I wish I had a scalpel so I could cut out your organs one by one as you watch," he said. "A bullet is far too merciful for you." The explosion came without warning and threw X to the ground. He looked up to see the roof had caved in, burying Dr. Zawari under a mountain of rubble. "Now that was a timely interruption," X said, clambering to his hands and knees. They probably had 2 minutes to get to the ladder to the mosque. He heard the Israeli agent groaning and crawled toward him. Fuck, Harry was moaning. "This hurts like hell." "Stop whining," X said. "I can see it's only a flesh wound in your shoulder. The guy was a terrible shot. I thought they sent those fellows through some kind of boot camp. Hopefully he was more on target with his prostate exams." "Not the gunshot, idiot. My leg." To the identity thief's dismay, he saw that the rubble had buried Harry's left leg. The Israeli spy was trying to shove the rocks off him, to no avail. X knelt beside him and started pulling the heavy stones off. "Next time, be more careful," he suggested. He thought, "If I started running right now, I'm sure I can make it." X had been on the track team in high school and was surprisingly fast for an athlete with relatively short legs. "Swell performance, by the way." "Likewise," X said. "You do righteous indignation very well." It took a full minute to free his comrade. X helped the injured man to his feet. "Can you walk?" Harry shook his head. "Here, put your arm around me." Awkwardly they moved through the narrow passage, Harry groaning as he hobbled along on his busted leg. To make matters worse, the lights finally went, and they were forced to forge ahead in total darkness. X recalled the sewer through which he'd fled the federal agents. "Here we go again," he mumbled. "Stop," Harry said. "Look, you'd better go on. That gas will be released any minute." It was certainly tempting. Running at top speed, he still could reach the ladder in time. And with Harry out of the way, well, things would be simpler. A lot simpler. "What do I owe this rude, self-righteous son of a bitch?" he thought. "What do I owe anyone?" "Oh, damn it all," X said. He grabbed Harry and threw him over his shoulder, fireman style. They were nearly identical in height and weight, so it took considerable effort. "Put me," Harry said. "You're not strong enough." X staggered down the passageway. Another explosion came, almost knocking him from his feet. He hadn't carried another person since he gave a piggyback ride to a girlfriend 4 years earlier, one a good deal more svelte than Samantha, and he was soon struggling under the burden. Yet somehow a minute later X bumped into the ladder with a clang. "Upsy-daisy," he said. Harry began to climb. "Am I hallucinating, or is that green mist wafting down the tunnel toward us?" he thought. It was hard to believe you could see nerve gas. Still, the stuff looked ominous. "Pick up the pace, if you don't mind," he shouted up to Harry. "My leg is broken, remember?" Harry yelled down. "Bad contusion, more likely." X started up the ladder. He remembered how interminable the climb down had been, like Alice descending into the rabbit hole. Their ascent seemed to take even longer. He could definitely smell something now, and his eyes were beginning to sting. Becoming woozy, he stopped climbing and hung there confused, suddenly unable to recall if he was supposed to be going up or down. His fingertips began to tingle, and he felt paralysis creeping through his muscles. His joints began to ache, and his legs went numb. So this is how it ends? Better than that sewer, I suppose. Above him, a burst of light and a rush of fresh air flooded in as Harry flung open the trap door. The Israeli agent thrust down his hand. "Come on!" As soon as Harry hauled him up through the opening, X slammed the door shut. It was doubtful it was airtight, but he didn't want to take another breath of that foul gas if he could help it. He helped Harry limp out of the mosque. People were evacuating the town on horseback, in jeeps, on motorcycles, and even bicycles. Over the village square, an AH-64D Apache longbow helicopter was hovering, a machine gun poking out of an open door. "It looks like our ride's here," X told his companion. "Right on schedule." X used his arms to form a triangle, the signal Tracy had instructed them to make. Dressed like everyone else, it would otherwise have been impossible to pick out them. The pilot caught the gesture, and the chopper descended noisily into the village square, kicking up choking dust. As the two men stumbled toward it, X felt as if he were in some old Chuck Norris movie, a POW belatedly rescued from Vietnam. A pair of Marines in desert fatigues helped them board, and the helicopter zipped away into the sky. Below, the people of the village scattered, looking like insects escaping a flooded nest. Some carried small arms, grenade launchers, and SAMs. One plucky villager fired an AK-47 at the chopper, and bullets tore through the fuselage. The machine gunner beside them returned fire, and the townsman dropped dead. "Get Lady Hawk on the line," Harry said. "Yes, sir," the pilot replied. "Well, we did it," X said. "Do you fellas have cigars or champagne? This really calls for a toast." "We'll be putting you down in Kabul, is that right?" Harry said. "That's the agreement. And you'll disappear into the crowd, a free man. It's not that I don't trust the government, but I really prefer that we part with no strings attached. Meanwhile, the chief's money is safely in the hands of the U.S. government," Harry said. "Yes, indeed. To build schools and bridges, I'm sure." "Or is it?" Harry said. X turned to see a stern look on his companion's face. He looked like a school proctor who'd caught a student cheating on the SATs. "Oops." X gave him a who-me look. "Beg pardon? What account number did you give them?" "The one you gave me, of course." "Bullshit. You transferred it to your own account, didn't you? All $45 billion. Where is it? In the Caymans? Switzerland?" X sighed. He was hoping Harry wouldn't put two and two together until they reached Kabul and he was able to slip free. The account in which he deposited the chief's nest egg was actually in Denmark. He'd set it up months ago when they were planning the ill-fated sting on Elinzir. "Hey, look, the terrorists don't have it. That's what's important, right?" "That money is the property of the U.S. government," Harry fumed. "Hey, technically it's the chief's money. What do you care? Aren't you Mossad? Or are you secretly working for Outer Mongolia?" "Where is the goddamn money?" Harry screamed. All right, so you got me. Of course I have the money. I'm afraid a take of $45 billion was irresistible. And now, of course, that'll be just $22.5 billion. Meaning? 50-50. Right down the middle. Harry, kneeling and ignoring the pain in his leg, grabbed X by the collar. "Not everyone is a greedy, rotten bastard," he snarled. "Sir, we have Lady Hawk," the co-pilot announced. Harry snatched the microphone. "This is Bluebird," he said. "Harry, are you guys all right?" Tracy's voice came over the radio. "Yes, but tell the Marines to retreat from the caves. The chief flooded it with some kind of gas. It's not sarin. I don't know what it is." "Roger that. I'll bring them out." They heard her barking orders in the background. "Why did you order the attack?" he asked. "We received the transfer." "You got a confirmation on that?" "I got a call from Mr. Jones himself." "A call? Let me guess. A cell phone call?" "Well, yes. Contact Jones. I guarantee you the money isn't there." More than 100 miles away, in the command center outside Gardez, Tracy blanched. It had sounded like Jones, but X was a master mimic, wasn't he? Harry turned to X. "How did you make the call?" The identity thief sighed. "The chief has a cell phone he leaves charging in his office. He left me at his desk for 5 minutes. There was a security code, but of course in my line you get a lot of practice listening to keypads." Harry shook his head in disbelief. And you sent that email blowing my cover, using my own laptop, didn't you? So you would be the one at the chief's terminal, not me like we planned. X couldn't think of a comeback. Harry was red in the face, shaking with rage. They beat the shit out of me, threatened to castrate me, you asshole. I apologize. Didn't know about any ball cutting. When we get back to the U.S., I'll see that you rot in jail for the rest of your stinking life, Harry shouted at the top of his lungs. And believe me, you will cough up the location of that Before he could finish the sentence, a rocket slammed into the helicopter, blowing right through the floor, through the roof, and into the rotors, as Harry, X, and the gunner tumbled about in the cabin the way beans might knock around in a maraca. The aircraft swirled around like a dragonfly with a missing wing. "Mayday! Mayday!" the pilot hollered as the chopper careened toward the mountainside. At the base, Tracy heard the horrific sound of an explosion. "Harry? Harry! Harry!" Tracy shouted into the phone. But the radio was dead. Chapter 24. Requiem for a Beloved Rogue. It was Mr. Jones, the real Mr. Jones, who relayed the news to Tracy. Only one person survived the wreck. Our man, Harry Assad, or, as we now know, the Israelis' man, Harry Weinstein, son of Malik and Aliyah Assad of Lebanon, or, in actuality, Noah and Rachel Weinstein of Michigan. He was airlifted to Landstuhl Regional Medical Center in Germany. "X?" she said hopefully. "The radio signal from that tooth implant was detected among charred remains in the wreckage. The retrieval team had to leave the dead bodies behind because they were coming under enemy fire." "It's not possible." "No. I had the Office of Security requisition the fingerprints taken for Harry's original FBI background check. The OOS received them from Bureau and relayed them to me this morning. It's Harry, all right. 100% match." Tracy didn't want Jones to hear her sigh, but he did. "I suppose a Christian burial wouldn't be too important to X," Tracy said. "No, I don't suppose so." "How's Harry?" "Half the bones in his body were broken, and he was badly burned. He'll be undergoing facial reconstruction surgery, and they have some of the best people in the world for that at LRMC. We supplied file photos of Harry's face, and they'll come close. I've seen them work miracles on soldiers who were horribly disfigured by IEDs. "What will happen to him, now that we know he's a mole?" "We'll flip him, of course. He'll be sent back to Israel as a reverse double agent." Tracy thought about Harry's rigidness and overall ornery disposition. "You think it'll be that easy to flip him?" Mr. Jones chuckled. "Of course not. He'll continue to spy for Israel." "So you can feed him disinformation?" "You're getting the hang of this. Yes, and moles within the Mossad will pass on the false information back to their handlers in Iran." "Isn't that exactly what they'd expect us to do?" Mr. Jones hesitated, then laughed. "Why, Agent Kingsmith, don't tell me you're developing a sense of humor." "What about the chief? Was he caught?" "Slipped away. Wily devil has 9 lives, but now at least he's broke, and won't be able to do much damage for a while. The mission was a complete success. Except for X dying, and the missing money. Oh, we'll track that down. If your identity thief comrade were still alive, he'd probably keep moving it like a game of 3-card Monte. But sitting in an account, we'll trace it within a few months." Tracy fell silent, contemplating the fate of the 2 men under her command. "You are to be commended, Agent Kingsmith," Mr. Jones told her in a surprisingly soothing tone. "You've earned the respect of the committee. We'll be calling on you again." "Thanks," Tracy replied. "I think." She visited the Israeli spy in Germany on a stopover back to the States. Although he was in traction and his head was bandaged, mummy style, she recognized Harry's familiar, irritating voice at once. "I hear Uncle Sam won't be prosecuting you for espionage," she said. Yes, lucky for me no one wants this fiasco to ever see the light of day. Imagine the blowback. As soon as I recover, they'll be putting me on a plane to Israel with nothing but a clean suit and a one-way ticket. Maybe we'll work together again someday. After all, our countries really are allies. What did Netanyahu say? We are you and you are us? Well, it's a small world, Harry agreed. She nodded. Any luck tracking down the $45 billion? He inquired. Frankly, I don't think we'll ever recover that money. Though Mr. Jones is optimistic. Wherever X stashed it, he stashed it good. Not in a Swiss bank or one in Zimbabwe, that's for sure. Well, at least those Islamo-fascist sons of a bitch won't get their hands on it, Harry said. There's a bowl of candies next to the bed, and Tracy took one. She sucked on it thoughtfully. He was a strange guy, wasn't he? She said. His actions probably saved millions of lives. Who knows? Maybe the solar system, if the chief wasn't totally demented. But I don't know if he really understood right from wrong. He wasn't much of an enigma to me, Harry growled. He was a greedy, calculating snake. Maybe, but I think in the end he became a hero, didn't he? I mean, he did go back for you. He saved your life. He didn't have to do that. I don't know why he went back. Probably had some self-serving motive we don't know about. Some reason the sociopath needed me alive for his crooked scheme. She waved her hand as if shooing the notion away. I believe there was something decent in him, and in the end he found it. Christ, you talk like you had a crush on him. She shook her head. Come on now, admit it. Tracy relented and smiled. I guess our girls have a weakness for bad boys. Well, I have a bit of bad boy in me, the injured man said. Maybe when I have my face back we can have a drink or something. They say I won't look like the Elephant Man, just different. Maybe they can give me the Cary Grant. Tracy smiled at his attempt at humor. He'd never tried to be funny before. Perhaps there was a hidden side of Harry she hadn't seen before. Maybe, she said. Yes, I'd like that. She gave him a peck on the cheek, and as she leaned in, he took the opportunity to pat her ass. She didn't complain. She figured he'd earned it. The patient watched the woman exit the hospital room, leaned back and sighed. He reached into the jar on the nightstand and selected a candy. Lemon had always been his favorite. He thought, Sri Lanka is supposed to be beautiful this time of year. The end. You've been listening to The Identity Thief by C. Michael Forsyth, narrated by the author. Copyright 2013, C. Michael Forsyth. Audiobook production copyright 2015, Freedom's Hammer Productions. Be sure to look for other books by C. Michael Forsyth. Hour of the Beast, The Blood of Titans, and Sir Arthur Conan Doyle and Harry Houdini in the Adventure of the Spook House.